Okay, one of the things that I wanted to talk about today was where we get our water. And one of those sources, besides surface water, is groundwater. And we're with the Prairie Lands Groundwater Conservation District. We stretch across 4 different counties. We go from Ellis County, Johnson, Hill, and Somerville County. So that's kind of our jurisdiction. And we look at wells and groundwater and their aquifers. Here in this area, what we're looking at is we have a minor aquifer, the Woodbine Aquifer, and then we also have a deeper aquifer, major aquifer in the state of Texas called the Trinity Aquifer. As you can see on the walls, we have a kind of a depiction of what the layers of our ground are, our soil, and all the different formations. Some of those are water bearing, some of them are not. But anyway, that's kind of a depiction of it, and it starts at Somerville, Johnson, Hill, all the way to Ellis. And we've got the same kind of thing going on here as well. When it rains, that's how we replenish or recharge our aquifer. This little aquifer up here, the Woodbine, is considered, this one is considered a water table aquifer. It's open to the sky, so when it rains, the water saturates the ground, and the water filters down and recharges that aquifer. However, this one has a bottom on it of rock or clay, and that's an impervious layer. So the water that's up here doesn't get through except where there may be a crack or maybe a puncture through it, like a well that's gone. But anyway, it doesn't flow from the Woodbine into the Trinity naturally. It has this layer that then puts the water that's down here in these formations under pressure. It is recharged way up here in Somerville County. It's on the other side of Glen Rose. And so that water has to seep into the ground there, recharge the rock and gravel there, and it gradually flows, maybe inch by inch, every day till it gets to this area here in Ellis County. So if you put a well through that area, depending on how much pressure, we've got it punctured through that impervious layer. It maybe have enough pressure that the water naturally comes up through that well, so you wouldn't even need a pump. And you've heard the term artesian wells. You have artesian baths and soaking places and healthy things. That's very deep water that's under pressure. It's old water, so we have that. And then these over here, they're more shallow wells. And one of the things the district looks at, and we will be writing permanent rules regarding, is the spacing of wells. Understand, here in Ellis County, you cannot have your own well on a piece of property unless you have 3 acres or more. However, that doesn't stop you from putting it on your property line right next to the next guy with 3 or more acres with his wells. So if you get a well that's too close to the next one, this is what happens. You can see the water level drops when I turn this well on. So this one guy is getting up on Monday morning, he's running his well, he's really pumping that water, and everybody else in the neighborhood, well, their water level has dropped. And if he runs enough water, you can even see it pulls the water, and this is of course running way faster than it does naturally, but it actually pulls the water through that rock and gravel. You can see the water table changing. And at some point, he's hit a dry spot, but he's still pulling a little water up. And these guys are dry already, because he's even pulling it from the guy that's even deeper. One of the things that happens with water quality, though, is this. Anything that you drop on the ground, when it rains, it gets washed and picked up by your rainwater when it sheet flows off the property, and it ends up in our creeks and rivers and streams. Well, one of the things that I just showed you is when, get that going again, when we have a pump going and the water level drops, it'll actually pull water out of the 2 streams. Okay, it says losing stream on it. This one's because it's above the water table. It'll actually, when it fills up, it'll feed the water table. Gaining stream, you can kind of see right here. Let's say that we've dropped some pollution. Antifreeze is a typical one. Some of it's pink even. If if you get that on, let's say on the surface, when it rains, of course it gets into our water or into our soil. As the water percolates through that, it can pull it with it. And I'm going to turn this well on. And what you'll actually see is as this thing pulls the water out, it'll pull the water down. And once again, let me say, this works way faster in my model than it does in real life. Okay? But it actually will, and this will turn pink. You can kind of see where the color goes. Same thing happens over here in this area. Let's say we have a, this one looks like oil and gas. It could be any kind of well. People stick things down holes. They want them gone. So let's say we have a contaminated a well and it has a break in the casing. So and we ask people to inspect their wells once a year. When you're going to move your clocks forward, you're going to change your battery, check your batteries and your smoke alarm, schedule your well test, your inspection, have someone look at it and see that it's still working well. But if we have an old well and we have a break in the system, see right down here, it had something in it. It too can get into the water of our aquifer. Let's see if we can get it to migrate. You'll watch, the water table will drop, and you can see it's starting to plume out a little bit in that area. Well, water is life, so that's how important that is. The amount of water we have on the planet today is the same amount of water we had when the dinosaurs walked. Not a drop more, not a drop, well, not a drop less. That is usable, I would guess. The water that we have on the planet, 97% of it is unusable. It's salt water. 3% of it is fresh water. However, 2% of that is in the polar ice caps. So only 1% of our fresh water is available to us. And we recycle it and recycle it and recycle it through the water cycle. So that's how it gets to us into a form that we can use. That's whatever came out of this well, and then it's starting to pump up. Okay. But it does get in there, and over time, and it's talking a lot of time, that'll actually migrate, and a well can then actually help that along a little bit. It'll draw it up, and so it's in the water, it's in the groundwater. You turn your well on, it's in your well. So, and home water wells, of course, they're expecting pure, well, we all are expecting pure water, but at home, you're responsible for your own well. One of the things that we ask people is to inspect their well once a year. And that's to make sure everything's working properly. Also, we hold events where they can bring water samples in, and Texas A&M will actually do water sample testing for them for like $10. So, and they'll find out what the constituents of their wells are. It's very important annually to do it, just like you test the batteries on your smoke detector, and then move your clocks forward. You might as well go ahead and schedule that inspection at the same time. I know you do that on Saturday, Sunday, but you know, as soon as possible, put that on the list as well. And just make it an annual event. Yeah, it costs money, but it's your water you're talking about, and it's more, you know, that's the most important thing in keeping your, if you don't have water at your house, what do? Think about that. So let's say you're, you know, just, let's say the city just turns your water off for a day to work on it. Think about how your life is disrupted, even if it's just those couple of hours. It's, can't wash your hands. All of a sudden, you know, you turn things on and you go, oh, you know, it's off. Well, same thing can happen with your own stuff there, so.